Hi everyone, welcome to the Our Ladies Philly November meetup. While you're waiting, you can read Shannon's blog post about today's workshop. That is the link on the screen that you have seen so far. If you want to code with her during the workshop, please install the required package that I also have been shown there. Any instructions to install the package you can find from the link. You can ask the questions in the chat if you have any problems. The workshop will start at 6:10. So first, I welcome everyone to join the Our Ladies Philly November meetup. Today's meetup is the workshop of art package development from the title you can see so far. So please feel free to live tweet this event with the handle #OurLadies and also @OurLadiesPhilly. So as usual, we want to thank Our Ladies Global to support this friendly community. Our Ladies is a worldwide organization to promote gender diversity in our community. Everyone is welcome to attend our meetups and also the mentorship program I will introduce later, as far as you support our code of conduct. So please refer to the following link if you want to know more details about our community. We also have a few announcements to make before the main workshop. If you are interested to lead a workshop and our meetups like this, or willing to mentor other learners, please sign up in our mentor speaker directory. If you want to pair up with other mentors to learn R or pursue the career advice, you can also go to our link and find the mentor contact information. Our ladies organizers are happy to help you if you have any questions about this mentorship program. Also, we have launched Our Ladies Philly YouTube channel. You can find all our virtual event recording there so far. This event will also be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel afterwards. For the people that are new to our Ladies Philly and interested to join our community, you can join through the Slack link here and communicate with other members. Finally, we have two upcoming events being planned. Please sign up at our meetup page if you are interested. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our today's speaker, Dr. Shannon Pileggi. Is that correct, Shannon?
That's correct.
Okay. Yes. Shannon holds a PhD in biostatistics and currently working as a statistician and Adelphi Research in Doylestown. She was a professor at the California Polytechnic State University and Emory University. She actively writes blogs about data analysis and our programming skills. If you are interested, please visit her personal blog, Peeping Her Data, and follow her on Twitter. She is an active Our Ladies member and volunteers as a mentor and our mentor speaker directory. So you can find her info there as well. Today's workshop is gonna be an interactive show and tell to show you how to make our packages using like devtools and usethis. You can find the reference like refer to her blog to know about this workshop and like the details about it. If you want to follow her, make sure that you have these two packages, devtools and usethis installed. And now I'm going to start a poll made by Shannon to basically ask you where you come from and hand the presentation to Shannon.
Thank you, Chen. Yeah. All right. And before I forget, I also want to give a huge thank you to Our Ladies Philly for hosting this workshop. There are a lot of Our Ladies Philly organizers who have been amazing, and a particularly big thank you to Chen, who has exchanged many emails with me and given me a lot of feedback along the way on this process. So thank you so much, Chen.
No problem. My pleasure.
All right. And we've already kind of touched on this. I'm pulling over my blog post right now. Hopefully you can all see this. I just want to level set on where I am in terms of my package development. So because I do not claim to be an expert, so I hope you didn't arrive today hoping to learn from an expert. You're learning from a learner also. So this is kind of as me over time, learning about our package development, and maybe I kind of hit my first peak that I felt kind of unstable when I built my first package, and kind of things weren't quite clicking with me. Earlier this year in January, I attended a workshop at Rstudio conference, and that's where I kind of really dug into DevTools and usethis, and kind of got a little bit better footing underneath myself with regards to better practices for package development. But I will be the first to tell you that there is a lot out there that I don't know, and I am still learning. All right. Hopefully everyone was able to get all of the prerequisites installed. All right, I'm going to go back over to my blog post real quick. So hopefully you were all able to get all of these packages installed and up to date. And just to kind of give you a little bit of a lay of the land, there's going to be a few functions that we're going to be using, and I'm classifying these functions in terms of single usage functions versus multiple usage functions. It's kind of just easier for me to keep track of it that way, because single usage functions, you use them one time throughout the entire development process, and then you forget about it, and you forget, what did I do that one time? And multiple usage functions, we're going to be using iteratively in the development process. All right, so now we are ready for our first single usage function. Let's create our first package. Here I have my Rstudio session open, and I'm in no project or anything. And we are going to do usethis, create package. And then you're going to type in the location of where you want that package to go. So I'm actually going to save this on my desktop for a couple of different reasons. So the path to my desktop is this. And I'm going to actually call the package Ralph. And if you haven't read my blog post or seen my tweets, the reason why I am naming my package Ralph is because of our ladies, Philadelphia. That's Ralph. I'm also realizing now that this might not be optimal font for you all. So let me zoom in on that. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to wait a minute before I press enter, just in case anyone is still typing. So just written out the full path name and then a slash, and then I want my package name to be. Are there any questions in the chat before I hit enter?
No one so far. Chandler said a great name for the packaging name.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so we're going to press enter, and what this is going to do is it's going to show you that it's doing a lot of things, and it's going to open a brand new Rstudio session that is actually your package. You'll see down here that I actually have two Rstudio sessions open, the one that I used to use this create package, and now I have a new Rstudio session open. That is my actual package. In terms of why I put it on my desktop, that's just like for ease of access. So you can see it. I'm going to drag my folder over here so you can see it. Ah, yes, there's my little Ralph package. It's just a folder on my desktop. And what else? Why else do I put it on my desktop? I work on a Windows computer that saves everything to OneDrive automatically. And so when I develop things on my computer, I find that I'm in this weird thing where it's creating files and automatically trying to save files and back them up at the same time. And when you're doing this kind of development thing, your computer can get a little angry at you when you're trying to do that like automatic backup. So I know that on my desktop, it's not linked to OneDrive and that automatic backup, and it just makes things run a little bit smoother if you can save to a place where it's not doing that automatic backup. Is there any questions?
There's one question on the chat. Is this a location that you type in previously created?
Nope. This this location? Nope, there was nothing there.
I think that's the only one question so far.
Okay. Any other questions?
Oh, another thing is, can you go back to your console so that I can make sure I got it?
Sure. Yeah, so wherever your desktop is, or wherever you want to save your package, you're just going to put your path to where you want to save the folder that creates your package, followed by a slash and your package name.
I guess you have to have like a desktop or that, the above, how to say, the parent directory exists to be able to create the new path as a rough, right?
Yeah, the parent, yes, I would agree that the parent directory needs to exist.
There's George was saying there's an arrow called the load space name. There's no package called usethis. I guess is you have not installed a package called usethis yet.
Yes, I would agree that that is probably the, sorry, it was on the welcome slide when we were getting ready for the talk. But the two primary workhorses that we are going to use in this workshop are devtools and usethis. So those are the two primary packages that you need to do package development, or at least package development according to the tools in this workshop. Otherwise, these three packages down here, tidyverse, rlang, broom, these are kind of just specific to the function that I'm creating in this package.
Also, I think Chandler was saying that could you show the file to new project wrote in the menu? Maybe that can help the path dependency.
Can I show what?
Like from the menu, the file, new project, new package wrote. Maybe that will help with the path dependency.
Like this?
I think I have no clue. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. I couldn't quite tell if you were suggesting something yourself or reading someone else's suggestion.
Yeah, I will read someone else's suggestion.
Okay.
Tran, do you want to speak up yourself? Or you already solved this problem? Yes, new project. Let me try to unmute her.
Okay, so all I was just suggesting with people having problems with path dependencies is that maybe you can use file new project and then you can create a new package via that path rather than having to use these packages. But that's that doesn't help with the usethis issue. So
either way, you're still going to need usethis.
Right. I know. I know you would.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right. Well, does everyone feel comfortable moving forward now?
Yeah, you can sum up on the screen like reactions if you're ready.
All right, great. Okay, well, we have a package, and essentially what a package is a collection of files with a certain folder structure. So let's kind of take a look and see what files we have here. We have two files labeled get_ignore and rbuild_ignore. As they are named ignore, maybe we can just ignore them. It's really just internal things. If you're pushing to GitHub, like telling Git which files it can ignore, and then if you're building your package, telling R which files it can ignore when you're building your package. So I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on those. I'm not going to focus on those. We have other files here called a description and a namespace. Let's go ahead and just click on that description file. You can see here that your description file kind of contains metadata about your package. So it has the package name, it has a title for your package, which you can edit right now if you so choose, or you can leave it. It has a version number default for your package, and there is quite a lot of information in the R packages book about appropriate versioning. And mine actually has some information about my name and my email address. Does anyone in the chat know why mine already contains my name and my email address, and some of you might not? Yeah, Jacob's here. Our profile, that's right. So I'll just kind of point this out over here from the blog post in case you're interested in kind of learning how you can set that metadata in your R profile. I have a link over here, I promise. I think I skipped one step or I didn't quite get to it yet. Okay. So there's a R profile link, and if you can save some information about yourself in your R profile using usethis, and that's why I had some of my name and email address by default pop up right there as an author. We have description and a few other things. So that's just kind of an overview of the description file. We also have this namespace file. You can see right here, it says this document is read-only, which is a really lovely thing because it means you actually never have to touch it, right? So this document is going to be updated automatically using the functions that we're using in today's workshop. We also have some folders, a folder named R. It's empty. We have an R folder that's empty. Do you all know what goes in the R folder? Anyone? I'm just looking at the chat over here. Codes, functions, scripts, exactly, yes. So that is where we are going to store our functions in scripts. All right. So this is the minimal essential files that we are going to need to develop a package. And I think the DevTools cheat sheet, excuse me, the package, not the DevTools cheat sheet, the R package development cheat sheet has a really nice overview of different folders and files that you could use in package development, right? So it says you have your description file and you have your namespace file, and we already saw that was automatically created when we did usethis create the package, and it also automatically created our R file. Things that have not yet been created for us are tests, man, vignettes, and data. These are all add-ins that you can add into your package, but are not required as a minimal essential part of your package to function. Questions?
No questions so far.
Awesome. Okay, what I am going to do real quick before I do anything else and forget is I am going to go ahead and connect this package to a GitHub repository. You do not have to do this step. You can do this step. The reason why I am doing this step is to show you that you can do it. And also my package will be live on the GitHub repository. I can initialize it here. And if you want me to push to GitHub throughout the workshop, I can do that if you want to see like a live view of what my package is actually looking like on GitHub. Or I can just save it for the end and push it all at the end when we're done. So the first step we're going to do to get this package up on GitHub is usethis : use git. And if you're not set up and connected with GitHub, I would not recommend doing this because there's a little bit of process that happens before this to make sure you're set up and connected. It's going to ask me a series of questions. It's saying, oh, I see some things. Do you want to commit them? Yes, I do want to commit them. I have to restart RStudio to do this. Do you want to do that? Absolutely. Yes, I do want to do that. I do. And then we're going to restart my RStudio session. All right, so then that was step 1, use this, use git. Step 2 is going to be use this, use git hub. All right, so use this : use GitHub is step 2. I'm going to go ahead and run that. It's asking which authentication method you are using. I'm going to do 2. It's saying, hey, your things are kind of sparse. Do you want to change anything? Is everything okay? Yeah, it's okay with me for now. Yeah. And it's going to create my GitHub repository. Now, my GitHub repository is open up online. And here you go. I'm putting the link in the chat. So if you want to check out the package on GitHub, you can do that as well. And if you want me to push at any point in time so you can see my package on GitHub, I can do that also. Any questions?
No questions so far.
Awesome. Okay, so we have a package. We are going to run our first function on our package. We are going to run a function called devtools check. Devtools check does a lot of things for you. I don't think most people run devtools check the minute they create the package. Like, I'm not saying you have to run devtools check the minute you create a package, but I want to introduce you to the idea of it right away so you can see what it's doing. So devtools : check. It's going to take a little bit of time. So it's telling you that it's updating documentation. It's checking for package dependencies, checking to see if Ralph can be installed. This devtool check actually checks over 50 things in your package. It's checking metadata, structure, barcode. And oh my gosh, I have done nothing in my package and it's already giving me a warning. How is that possible? Do you see what the warning is? I'm looking in the chat. No license, no license, no license. Need a license. Yeah, it's telling me right here, I don't have a license. You know, I think the check is definitely verbose and it can take a while to kind of figure out how to read it, as with any kind of warning or error or notes in R, but it's telling me right here, here is my warning in purple that I have no license specification. So R is getting angry at me for that. So if you want to have a proper package, please have a license. I am by no means a license expert, but I've heard through the grapevine that a standard license to use is the MIT license. So we're going to do that in a minute. Before I do that, I want to point out one other thing that has happened over here in our file structure. Did anyone notice anything new in our file structure that wasn't there before when we first looked at it? The man folder. Yeah. So the main folder is new. It was not there when we did create package, but now it's there after we ran devtools check. So man, I heard, actually stands short for manual, and that's where all of your package documentation goes. Now, it is empty. There is nothing to document, but it's there. And the reason it's there is because that devtools check does like 50 things, including it actually documents your package. If you haven't it just reruns all of the documentation for your package, and that's why it created the man folder. All right. So let's correct this warning message. So use this, use MIT license. In this, I am going to put quotes, and I'm going to put my name or the name of whoever you want associated with this license. So use this : use underscore MIT underscore license, and then whatever name you want to put there in quotes. Again, some things happened for us. So we can see that 2 new files were automatically created for us. We have a license.md. This is where the name went that I put in quotes. We have this other license file. Honestly, I don't know why we have both. They're just there. They work. That's good enough for me. And on top of that, in our description file, our license field has now been updated to say that we are using the MIT license. In case I went over it too fast, the reason why I chose the MIT license, other people have said, it's a great license to use a broad permission. It might be overkill if you're just using your package for internal purposes and you're not planning on sharing it or publishing it. But I like to see my checks come back with no errors, no warnings, and no notes. I'm gonna pause for any questions.
I think there's one person trying to ask a question, but didn't finish it. So
okay. All right. While we're waiting for questions, I'm going to go ahead and run DevTools check one more time. It's not essential if you're kind of still catching up or digesting, but just to kind of show you now that our package is going to be no errors, no warnings, and no notes.
Actually, now 3 questions pop up. So number 1 question is, what's the difference between the license and the license MD?
I don't know. Let's ask another expert if anyone else knows why we have 2 license files. I mean, I'm gonna assume it has to do something with how our pieces, all of this information to come together in a readable format. That would be my best guess. Yeah, and one is HTML, one is Markdown.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the second question is, what did you run before the use MIT license?
What did I run before that?
Yeah, I think it's
the only thing I ran before that was DevTools check. Mm-hmm. So when I ran the first DevTools check, it told me I had a warning, and my warning was that I didn't have a license. When I ran my second DevTools check, I ran my first DevTools check, I got my warning that I had no license. Then I included a license with UIT license. And then now that I've run my second DevTools check after adding in my license, this is the beautiful thing right here. Everything is green, 0 errors, 0 warnings, and 0 notes.
Yeah, third one is not a real question. Third one actually is a cast make a comments that saying you will get an error of a malformed package name when run the DevTools check. I think it's it's because that you cannot include the hyphens and underscore in our package names.
Yeah, so if you use a package name other than Ralph, yeah, there are going to be some specific naming conventions for our packages that I don't know off the top of my head, but basically you keep it simple. So the user is saying now that you can't include hyphens and you can't include underscores. And if you're kind of just thinking more generally about our package development and what makes a good R package, I would certainly refer to this blog post of how to develop good R packages. I'm not sure it gets probably a little bit into like how to name a package, but not necessarily the nitty-gritty of the naming rules that you have to follow, and that's going to be in the R packages book.
Wonderful, thank you. I think we clear up all the questions now.
Yeah, and I see Trang had a comment in the chat that we have to be mindful about copyright holder because often it should be your company and not, I'm saying your company and not an individual.
There's
but
another
yeah,
question.
Yeah,
You can read
I
it.
would, yeah, better pays for your work. That's a really good point. That if you are developing a package for your place of employment, you should be mindful of their policies and make sure that your licensing is done correctly. Good point, thank you. All right. And with regards to these errors, warnings, and notes, they are kind of in order of worst to not as bad, right? So if you have an error, your package really isn't going to work. If you have a warning, it might work, but if we're not happy with it, if you have a note, it probably will work, but it can, you know, there's some things that can be tidied up in there. Okay. So we've got our license, we've got our checks, we've got no errors and warnings. What are we going to do next? Let's create a function. All right. Here is how we are going to create a function. Go ahead and close this. And we are going to go to use this, use R. So it's use R because we're going to throw something into that R folder over there that we already said is going to contain all of our functions. Do parentheses, quote, and what the name you want for your function to be. This is not going to follow the same naming restrictions as a package name would. So I'm sure there are naming conventions for functions that I probably can't think of off the top of my head. It just need to follow some guidelines, but not as restrictive as a package, which is why I have an underscore in my function name. So what this is going to do is it's going to create a blank R script in my R folder. And then it kind of actually told me this. So it said, it didn't really say it, but it said you can go to r/computecore.r in order to modify it. It automatically opened up that named R script in a window for me. I can exit it out because I can find it right here over on the side in my R folder. And there's my blank R script for my function. I see some GitHub questions on the thing on the chat. We'll save those for the end. All right, so now we our script and we can put a function in here. And because I don't want there to be any issues with things not working due to typos, what I would definitely recommend that you do is you just go to my blog post, if you want to share that in the chat again, and copy and paste this function into it, because I don't want anyone to be hung up because of a typo. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing here. I have copied and pasted this function in. And I will motivate this function for you, I promise, as well. After I've copied and pasted this function in, an important step is to make sure you hit your save button or Control S. You definitely want to make sure you do that in order to do the next step. And as you have that copied and pasted function into your script and saved, can I get a thumbs up or a good to go in the chat? Thumbs up, thank you. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. It's weird, I see some thumbs up in the chat and I can see some like on people's names in the grid view over here as well. So that's really helpful, thank you. All right, so I'm wondering if any of you have actually ever used the core.test function. Nope. Definitely, yes. So let's motivate what is actually happening here. I'm going to do an example with the faithful data set, which is actually, and so this is not kind of part of package development. This is just motivating the function. I'm going to do an example with a faithful data set. So let's do faithful. It's in base R, so everyone should have it. One variable, in case you don't know, Old Faithful is a geyser in the United States. And so this data set tells you the length of time of the eruption and the length of time of how long it was in between each eruption. So that's faithful. And you don't have to type along with us if you don't want to. This is just kind of to tell you what core test is and what it does. So what we're doing is the correlation test between the two variables, eruption times and waiting times in the Old Faithful data set. I believe if I just use the base R function here, you can plot the faithful data set very quickly. You can see there's definitely some clustering here, but there is kind of like a linear association that like the longer time between eruptions, the longer you tend to wait. Also, the longer the eruption time, the longer you wait until the next eruption. So it's producing a lot of summary statistics, and like as goes with most kind of base R stats functions, they're not tidy summary statistics, kind of a big blob there. So what you can do to kind of tidy that up is you can tag along broom tidy on it, and then we're going to get an error because I actually haven't loaded the tidyverse. So let's load the tidyverse in real quick. All right. I'm going to now tidy up those correlation results, and we can see now instead of coming out with a blob of text that is so traditional in base R stats, now we've got kind of more data frame version of our results. And then the last bit of my function is actually just going to select the bits that I want, just the estimate and the p-value, and rename them how I see fit. So that's why compute core exists. It might not even need to exist. It might be duplicating efforts in other packages, as there are a lot of packages that have done lots of great things with correlation. And let's take this function itself for a test drive. So let's take this function and see what it looks like when we execute this function. So you've got your function saved in your script, and you've got this. This is not active anymore because it's already saved. And we're going to use the command devtools : load all. So this is going to load all functions in memory, in that R folder, into your memory. So now I can actually call that function compute core, and I can call data equals faithful, var1 equals eruptions, and var2 equals waiting. And there is what my function produces. It is kind of, the same output that we were getting before, just in a tidier format and not as much information. Let me pause for questions. Sylvia said, can you show the core.test a bit again? Yeah, so there's our correlation estimate, and just a little bit of a different rounding there. And there's our p-value that printed out in the default stats output, and it printed out a little bit differently here in terms of what's printed and what's shown and stored and all that. Any other questions? Yeah, lots of correlations. All right. There's also some funny things I have going on in this function. So I've got some fancy curly braces here. It's a little bit different than kind of how I had it written out here, right? So here I'm using the data set name, and then I'm extracting a specific column vector from that data set using the name of it. In my function itself, I'm doing it slightly differently. I'm using the poll function from dplyr, and I am embracing that variable name with curly curly. And does anyone know what that means and why I'm doing that? To convert it into a variable, quasi quotation. Yep, pretty much those are the ideas of it. So if you looked at quasi quotation, non-standard evaluation, I think the dynamic eval, so the kind of the way tidyverse developers are describing this now is that they are describing this in terms of here. Sorry, right here. They're describing it in terms of tidy evaluation. So if you want to kind of get a deeper dive into tidy evaluation and how that works in functions, I will refer back to this link. But basically, the magic that it is doing right here is that it's allowing us to put in the variable names as unquoted instead of quoted. Yeah, so Chun just said she was using a different expression to do it in terms of bang bang sim. And yeah, and the embrace is a little bit of a newer update to it that makes things a little bit simpler. I feel like I've digressed onto the function, but I wanted to make sure it was motivated before we get into package development. So, but I'm welcome the digression. So are there any other questions about the function, what it's doing, why it's doing anything it's doing, or how it's working?
Yeah, I didn't see any question coming up.
Awesome. Okay. So we've got our function loaded in. If you read our package book, the authors will say that DevTools load all in quite strong opinionated terms as they write everything is arguably the most important use in package development, because this is where you can really tinker and develop your functions right here, right? Like if you didn't know what compute core was supposed to do, what it's supposed to look like, if you're still developing this function, then you can do this iteratively with load all, right? Like you can tinker in this function definition and load it and see if it works. And then you can tinker and then you can load it and then you can tinker and then you can load it. So that's kind of the point of load all there, but we're kind of skipping that development step because we already have the function written for in the interest of time. All right, so we have a function written, but it is not documented. We need to document our function. That's going to tell ourselves, our future selves, and our users of our function what it's about, what it's doing, and why. So to document your function, you kind of want to put your cursor probably anywhere on this top line. And you are going to go over to code. And then you're going to go down to insert our oxygen skeleton. So I'll just let my cursor hang there so everyone can kind of see that and catch up. When we go to insert our oxygen skeleton, it's going to go ahead and put a specific format for documentation into your function. And these are things that you can fill in. Yeah, and what I really actually like about this R oxygen skeleton is like you don't have to be writing a package to put an R oxygen skeleton there. Like I've started to gotten into the habit of, even if I just kind of have some loose scripts with functions in different places that aren't yet like fully formed into packages, like I'm putting an R oxygen skeleton in there to kind of remind future me of the things that are in it. Awesome. I'm glad people are excited about this. All right. So we can just fill in a few bits here into our oxygen skeleton, right? So we're computing a tidy correlation. That's going to be the name of it, or the title of our function. We have to tell it kind of the key parameters that we're putting in. So the data set is input data set. var1, that's going to be the name of variable 1. And if you just kind of want to be explicit about it, you can say that's an unquoted name, like maybe you're playing around with doing it quoted, unquoted. I certainly played around with it when I was working on this function. And this is name of variable 2. Unquoted. Return is telling you what it's actually returning. So we are returning a tibble with the Pearson correlation and p-value. And export is kind of a keyword for your documentation to say export your function to be visible in this package. So you could have functions in your package that aren't necessarily exported. These might be like helper functions that maybe a user doesn't need to interact with, but kind of support other functions. And then we also list out an example. So our example execution here is compute core data equals faithful, var1 equals eruptions, and comma var2 equals waiting. You definitely want to be sure that this executes because it will cause a hang up in your package if that function and if that example doesn't execute, right? So you want to make sure there's no typos there or anything like that. If you're typing it in by hand, you can also copy and paste it from a blog post if you want to do that. But just make sure it's executing without error so that it doesn't hang up your devtools check. Put your mouse cursor inside the function. I had a problem before. Yeah. So when you're inserting our oxygen skeleton, you can't have your cursor just kind of anywhere in the script. When you are inserting your oxygen skeleton, it has to be kind of here in the definition of this function to kind of pick it up and insert it automatically.
There's
okay.
one question.
Yeah.
There's one question from the Q&A. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you. What did you say about the unquoted in the oxygen skeleton? I missed that.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have put that there. I could delete that. So sorry for any confusion. It's just about how you kind of input your variable name. So, for example, previously, when I first put in this correlation test, I put this as a quoted character string, right? I'm pulling the eruptions variable from the faithful data set, and I could have written this function differently that would have required you to write something like this. I could have written the function differently such that you would have had to quote the variable name in order for the function to work. And I guess it works equivalently. Just found that out on the fly. But under some circumstances, it might not work, it might work. So just kind of adding instructions to yourself, like, do I want to put my variable name in quotes or not? Yeah. And the reason why we can do the magic without quotes is, again, because of that tidy evaluation within Embrace. Yeah, Embrace probably did that magic for me. Yeah, I think dplyr select actually can work equivalently if you use quoted names or unquoted names. I mean, don't take that like for 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure I've played around with it both ways before. All right, so we were documenting our function. I mean, any questions at any time are welcome, depending on the function. Thank you, trying dplyr select those, take it. Okay. We were documenting the function, and are there any questions about the documentation that you see? There are other things that can go into the documentation. You don't need to worry about it for now, but no, you can add more information and more information and more information in different places with different structures. And it kind of what the R oxygen skeleton pulls up is just kind of the minimal documentation that you need. I'm going to go ahead and press save on this documentation. Save, right. All right, I'm reading a very long question in the chat. You mentioned making sure examples actually run because of how DevTools checks what they're on. Is it okay to use a sample data from the tidyverse, like you did, without specifically including a line like library tidyverse? I'm going to go with no. So if you're using a data set, it's possible. It kind of depends on what we're getting into in a little bit, which obviously we might be pushing an hour now. Hopefully you all are comfortable. So it depends on kind of the dependencies, the package dependencies that you set up in your package structure, which we haven't quite gotten to yet. So that's why I chose to use a base data set so that I wouldn't have to worry about that dependency. Yeah. Okay. And all right, so I have this documentation and I have saved it. So now let's take a look at it. What we're going to do is we are going to perform an operation, devtools document. Okay, actually, before I do that, before I do devtools document, let's just kind of poke around here. Here's our man folder, which remember I said stood for manual, and I said, ah, look, this has nothing in it. Okay, so now let's run devtools document, and we can see what happens. All right, so it said it did two things for us. One thing that it did for us is it updated our namespace. And another thing that it did for us was write compute core.rd. So again, it says this document is read-only. It's got a lot of stuff. You don't have to know how it works because it's read-only. It's generated from our oxygen magic. It said it also updated your namespace. Again, we talked about how namespace is read-only. It's generated by our oxygen. You don't ever have to touch it. It's magic. So we can just kind of leave it there. It's just little things that you need for your package to work that DevTools document did for you. And so we did DevTools document. And now our package is documented. Our functions documented, not our package, our function. So let's see what our function documentation looks like. Just like with anything, anything where you're trying to check out the help file on any function in R, we're going to do question mark compute core. Look, there is our lovely documentation for our function. You can see compute the tidy correlation there at the top. You can see our title is actually the same as our description, so we could add some more text in there. We're like, what happens if I do this? More information goes here. Let's just kind of see what happens on the fly. Save, let's do DevTools document. Again. And let's do question mark compute core again. And now my title is a little bit different than my description, right? So the very first line that you see here says is the title of that function, compute the tidy correlation. And now the kind of with the space and a new line, that's the description. kind of more spaces and more new lines. We'll add things in different places, and we can refer to like the R packages for that. It tells you the usage, the arguments, the values that it returns, and the example down there at the bottom. I'll pause for questions.
Lot of relevant
questions.
students. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that's great. We have a function. It works. It's documented. That's awesome. Let's see what happens when we check our package. DevTools, : check. Oh my gosh. Oh no. Oh no. Red everywhere. Oh no. We have an error. We have a warning. We have a note. What did I do to myself, right? Like how could anything be wrong? Okay. Let's figure it out. We have a lot to take in here. Errors are probably going to be the most pressing things to figure out. So you can see here, there's so much to digest in this check, and it takes a lot of time and patience to get used to it. Can anyone tell me kind of some of the things that they think might be going on, some of the things that they think R might be angry at me for? The pipe operator, yeah, it's angry at me for the pipe operator. I put that pipe operator in my function and it just doesn't know what to do with it. Yep, it doesn't recognize Magritter or dependencies or the tidyverse package. That's kind of like the root of a lot of these errors. So we can fix a lot of these errors, warnings, and notes by specifying our dependencies. So if we go back up to our function, we can see that our function actually is explicitly dependent on functions from other packages. One function that we are explicitly dependent on is the pipe operator, which is from the Magritter package, and it is very angry at me that I haven't told it where to find the pipe operator. Another function that we are dependent on is going to be the tidy function from the broom package. Another function that we are dependent on is the select function here in dplyr, and also the pull function here in dplyr. So we need to tell R where all of this is coming from. Thankfully, it's actually not too hard. So I'm going to clear my console just so there's not a lot of clutter. And so the first thing we're going to say are the packages that need to go into the packages that our function depends on. I'm going to just open up the description file real quick just to refresh your memory. Okay, so to refresh your memory, this is what our description file looks like. And you'll see that there's actually no package dependencies listed in our description file. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that before we start adding some things in. All right, so the way we are going to add a package dependency is usethis : use _ package. The first one I'm going to add is broom in no particular order. And it says it added broom to the imports field in the description file. There's an imports field now at the bottom of my description file, and broom has been put there. Lovely. All right. All right. Now we're going to add another package. use this, use package. And this one I'm going to specify to be dplyr. And hopefully you have guessed what it has done for us is now that it has added the dplyr package to our import. Awesome. Where can I find the description file? So if I close out my description file and you're over here, if you're kind of at the just the main level of your route folder, your description file is right there in that main level. It's not nested in any subfolders or anything like that. Ooh, Command Shift M. I did not know that one either. Thank you, Trent. All right. So we have added 2 packages as dependencies to our function. Our function depends on other functions from the room package. Our package depends on other functions from the dplyr package. Now, the way that, I'm just going to come over to my blog post real quick. Right, so we have to specify the package dependencies. We've got that. That's going to be in usethis. But you also have to specify functions within packages. And this is kind of already taken care of for us, right? So the first way you can specify a function within a package is to use that : notation that I have already written in Compute Core. So I don't really have to do anything to make this work because I've already written broom : tidy. There are other ways that you can specify functions within packages. It's just not the way that I use. So you can modify your R oxygen section to specify functions within packages. And you can specify specific functions within a package, or you can actually tell your package to import an entire package as well. But from what I've heard, that is not a recommended practice, as that can make your package quite bulky. Any questions about what we've done or talked about so far?
I just typed a question.
Yeah, so can I import tidyverse as a whole instead of import broom dplyr separately? Probably. I actually haven't tried it. Jake says no. I mean, I'm guessing that there are probably some philosophical, if not practical reasons why you wouldn't want to do that, because it is going to make things bigger than necessary. Trang says not recommended. Tidyverse team is not recommended. Yeah. So there's lots of things you can do that aren't recommended that might work. Tidyverse doesn't actually import all the tidyverse packages. Okay. You might be able to do it. It just might not be a recommended practice. Right. It's not a proper package. It is a collection package. All right, so we've got a few things taken care of, but one thing that you all pointed out that was a problem was the pipe. And we actually haven't taken care of the pipe because, we haven't imported tidyverse or other things that actually have the pipe. And the pipe is a little bit of a special case. So the easiest way to get the pipe into your package as a dependency. Thank you for that link, Kelsey. Tidyverse, not for packages. Definitive. All right. So the way we can get our pipe into our package.
Okay. Is how is using our package different from just putting a package in the import statement?
How is using an R package, how is usethis different than manually typing it here?
Yeah, the
I'm
use
guessing it's
this
the
user
question.
package. Yeah.
It's not. It literally just types the word here for you. I don't think it does anything else in the back end besides type the word for you. As far as I know. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it just types that word for you. Proper indentation? Sure. Yep. Yeah, maybe there's some other advantages there.
Okay.
Less error prone. Yeah. Good question. Thank you.
No more questions.
Okay. So let's use our pipe. I'm going to clear my console so it doesn't look too cluttered. Let's use this. There's 2 steps to get your pipe up. Use pipe. Step 1. All right. So you can see that it automatically added Magritter to our import section in our description file. It actually went over to R and it added another file to our R folder, which is, you never have to worry about. And I'm telling you a hint of something to do next, but you're gonna have to excuse me because I don't want to keep coughing in your ear, and I'm gonna go get some water real quick. So I'll be right back. Okay, so use pipe. Added a few things, gave us a new file in our R folder, added something to our imports, and it's actually telling you you have to do one more step. So there are 2 steps to get your pipe up in your package properly. So use pipe followed by devtools document as it actually tells you to do right now. All right, so now we have devtools document. It says that it wrote some stuff to your namespace. Let's go over to your namespace. There's a few more things over here. And it says it wrote something to pipe.rd. I go to my man folder, there's pipe.rd here, but a lot of things that we don't have to touch, and the pipe operator is going to work as it should. Any questions about that before I move on?
I just type a question. How to import the packages not on the CRAN? For example, I want to use a package from the bioconductor or the GitHub. Is that possible that automatically, you using package, it will pop out?
I don't know. I'm going to have to defer to someone else that might have more knowledge. That's a great question. If anyone else knows, because I know there are some experienced developers in here. Thank you, Jake. He doesn't know either. That's something we're going to have to follow up on.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can install your package locally from GitHub, but I think what Chen is asking, sorry, I'm reading in comments. So if you mean using directly from GitHub, you can use devtools install GitHub. Yeah, that's going to install the package on your computer, but then I don't know if that would play well when you're declaring it as a dependency in your package. Yeah. That's something I'd have to play with. And well, if you're submitting, it's not going to be accepted to CRAN. Good point as well. Other questions?
Not that I can see.
So much knowledge here. Jessie says, looks like it's possible. So she put a quick link to Stack Overflow there. Thanks so much, Jessie. All right. So let's see here. Hopefully, let's see. Do we have all of our problems in the world fixed? So let's go to DevTools. Check. One note. Yep, I know. I know there's another note. All right. So just to be clear, we're kind of like wrapping up the meat of the content for today. That you have gotten the meat of it. What we're about to do now is a little bit more nitpicking into things that happen when you program in the tidyverse. So we have 0 errors, and that's great. We have 0 warnings, and that's fantastic. That's a little bit annoying that we have a note. Depending on how you all are feeling, what we can do is we can ignore the note and show you how you can install the package, or we can go ahead and get rid of that note. If some of you are anxious to kind of sign off and wrap up and watch this later, just let me know and I'll just show you how you can install the package real quick. Otherwise, we'll resolve this note. Get rid of the note, get rid of the note. Yeah. It's a little bit involved. I have to run. Okay, see you later, Jake. You can catch it later. All right, let's get rid of the note. Resolve the note, everyone. Okay, so here's the note. The note. Checking our problems, our code for possible problems. Why is it complaining about something for stats? Yeah, it really bothered me too. Yeah, got you. I feel you, Kelsey, because I thought about this one for a long time. So Kelsey wants to know why is complaining about something from stats. So there was one omission that I kind of left out, and when I said we're pulling in functions from other packages, what I left out here is core.test. It's actually a function in another package, and it's kind of easy to forget about it and to not think about it because it's actually in the stats package, and the stats package is installed, or like not installed, but it's loaded, it's installed and loaded by default in your R session. So it's already loaded, it's already there. But it is kind of giving you like a little bit of complaining because it's saying you are using a function and it doesn't know what package you're pulling that function from. So I think what it's trying to, oh no, still getting an error, it's a pipe operator. So hopefully we can come back and resolve your pipe operator error. I think, what it's telling you is that maybe there could be other packages out there that have the core.test function, that just happen to have the same name or something. It wants you to be very explicit about where that core.test function is coming from, even though the stats package is already loaded by default in your R session. Sylvia, I would also try to make sure all of your packages are up to date. It's possible if R, Lang, and Magritter and all of that, and DevTools document, yeah, it's the 2 steps, right? Yeah. So yeah, if you're still having trouble, I would with like pipe or anything, I would make sure all of your packages are actually up to date and make sure you do the 2-step process for your pipe. The 2-step process is going to be use this, use pipe, and then DevTools document. I'm going to pause for a second here before I kind of continue on this note, just because it seems like a couple of people were having trouble with that pipe. Yeah, and when all else fails, restart R. That's a great point, and I would actually highly recommend that you restart R frequently in any kind of development session, just to kind of clear your workspace and make sure you don't have any packages that you loaded that that you're not depending on inadvertently in your working session. So the way you can restart R is you just go to Session, Restart R, or you can also do Control-Shift-F10. And that's just a really great practice to keep up with. when you're doing a development process. Okay. So, awesome. So some people are getting that pipe error resolved. That's good. So use this, use pipe, and then devtools document. So to fix this to begin with, the first step that I'm going to take to resolve this note is I am going to specify that this core test function comes from the stats package. I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to check again. And we're still going to get some more notes. And these are kind of nitpicky notes. But I can't quite say that I fully comprehend, but that I know how to fix them. All right. So the note that we were having previously about core.test is gone. So it's happy. It knows that core.test is coming from the stats package. And this was, in case anyone else, I'm guessing maybe Kelsey is picking up on this, it kind of threw me for a loop that I need to specify that the core.test function came from the stats package, but I don't actually need to import stats into my package, right, in my description file, and that's just because it's like it's loaded by default in everyone's R session. Yep, and Chang says that you can modify your R profile, so you don't have to type devtools all the time. Absolutely. I like it for me, like, so I know like what functions are coming from where, so I don't forget. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, so Trang says she always puts stats in imports. I honestly don't know if it's like best practice to put stats in imports or if it's okay to leave it out. Like, I have no idea because it is installed by default. So I would love to hear from anyone else on if they have any best practices there. All right. But we do have these like other just kind of really annoying vague notes left. No visible binding for a global variable. Like, what is that? So this is actually something to do with programming in the tidyverse. And I'll just actually come over here, just so you know where the link is. If you are at my blog post and you go to the footnote in my blog post, it kind of explains all of this and how to fix it. And it has to do with the data pronoun. So if you go over to the data pronoun and programming in the tidyverse, and then there's this how to eliminate check notes. And that's exactly what we want to do, right? We want to get rid of this, like, these weird, no visible binding check notes. So that's what we're going to do to get rid of it. Oops. Sorry, kind of drug some things around, but I didn't need to. All right. So what we are going to do, first thing we're going to do is we are going to add our lang to our description file. We're going to declare dependency on our lang. So we're going to do use this, use package, our lang. All right, so now our lang should be in our description file. There it is, which is used in tidy evaluation. And then the other thing that we have to do is we have to include a little bit more information in our documentation here. So I just hit enter a couple times and that pound sign with a quote automatically came up. And we're going to enter the keyword at import. And we are going to, not import, import from. And we are going to import from our lang dot data. So basically we're importing the, I guess .data is a function. We're importing .data from our lang. All right, so that's step 2. So just to kind of recap, in case anyone's missing out on what I did, I've done step 1 and step 2 so far. So step 1 was use this : use package rlang. Step 2 was add import from rlang.data into our package, or sorry, into our function documentation. And then I'm about to move on to step 3. So step 3 is to come down here to where we have these things that it was angry at us about. It was angry at us about estimate and p-value. So we are going to come down here and we're going to write .data $estimate. And we are going to write .data $p-value. So step 1, step 2, step 3. I'm going to save this file and pause for a minute, because I imagine some people are typing and trying to keep up. Okay, so we did step 1, step 2, step 3, all listed in the footnote of my blog post. Can you explain why we did .data? Oh, I should have read this more. I did a lot of reading to prepare. So why did we do .data? So it is a thing about programming in the tidyverse. I don't want to say anything wrong, so how about I just say that? And I would refer you to this article if you want to know more about why. But I can tell you it's going to resolve our issues. Sorry, I can't give you a more satisfying answer than that at this point in time, but you have encouraged me to read more. Are there any other questions at this time?
Not that I can see.
Okay. All right. So now that we've done step 1, step 2, and step 3, I'm going to do devtools check. And I want to see all green, no errors, no warnings, no notes. Hopefully I did everything right. Yay, confetti, cheers. All right, we have a function and it's documented and it's got no errors and no warnings and no notes. That's awesome. So the last remaining step is to show you how to install your package that you have. And but before we do that, I'll just see if there's any questions before we get to that installation.
I didn't see any question. Oh, okay, here's a question. Can this recording sent to me? Sorry, I'll just look at it. Yeah, you can go to our YouTube channel and find this recording afterwards.
Absolutely. And I'm going to update my blog post with a link to the recording when it's available as well. Did I just save the script and then run check? That is absolutely what I did. Yeah, hopefully it worked for you as well. But if it didn't work for you, if you're still getting some sort of note, it is possible to miss one of those 3 steps. All right, so now that your package is created, let's install it. So I'm going to go back to my original Rstudio session. if you look at my packages environment and we scroll through here, we haven't installed any, we haven't installed Ralph. There is going to be no Ralph in my set of packages. And so we are going to install Ralph by doing devtools. And so this is a new, different R session, right? So I'm not in any project. I'm not in my Ralph project. My Ralph project is in a separate R session. And remember that Ralph package is saved to my desktop. So I'm going to do devtools. It's not devtools parentheses. I'm going to do devtools install. And then I'm going to type out the full path name, c:/users/shannon.pileggi/desktop/Ralph. And let's see if our package installs. All right, I'm going to skip. I don't need any updates. I'm not going about this. So don't quite know why all of this is triggering, except maybe it's like dependencies on some of the other packages. And here we go, installing my package. And sometimes when you install a package, your R session just kind of needs to refresh a little bit before it shows up over here in your packages environment. So I'll just go ahead and restart R. And it's kind of refreshing and updating. And let's go down here. And Ralph. Doesn't tell you much about Ralph because we didn't change much in our metadata about our package. So what the package does, one line, title case. Some of our metadata is there somewhere in our description file. Yes, it's by me. I made Ralph. And there's our compute core function right there with its documentation. And of course, we could come over here, grab our example, and execute it in our console. Didn't need to copy all of that. I didn't load it in the Ralph package. There we go. All right. We're good, I hope. Time for questions.
There is one question. Can we use R Markdown instead of R script for the? I guess is for the like R package function.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say no. When you are developing your functions, they should be written in R scripts that are saved to your R folder. Oh, Chang, that's so sweet. She says, I wish you were there when I made my first package. I wish I was there when I made my first package. Like, this has been a journey for me. I didn't know all of this when I made my first package either. And I'm still learning.
Yeah, I didn't see any new questions. Follow up. Oh, how would you upload this to GitHub? Yeah, that's one thing.
All right. So I have my package. I'm back in my R session that has my package in it. I'm in my Ralph project. I'm going to go over here to Git, and let's go ahead and push this final package to Git. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to highlight everything, stage it. This is the error warning and note free package. Commit it. Close. Push. open GitHub over here. Says it was updated an hour ago. Let's refresh. Updated 22 seconds ago. There's the full package. Can we see the patch routes in the packages section? Absolutely. If you have installed it in your, if you have done install, either by devtools install, sorry, if you have installed your package, you can install it, just pull it over here to my blog post. You can install it two ways, right? You can install it locally from devtools : install, or if you have it pushed up to GitHub, you can do devtools : install GitHub. Can you see it in your package directory? Yes. However, the one exception is that you might have to restart R first. So sometimes when you first install packages, it doesn't immediately show up in your packages list over here. So just remember to restart R, and then it should show up and refresh in your packages list. How do we add a new function to the package? Ah, great question. Yeah, because we only did one function, and that's like not a realistic package, right? Only one function. So a lot of these functions that we used, we're going to use iteratively. So if we want to add a new function to our package, sorry, let me go over here. What we're going to do, we're going to do use this, : use _ R. And then we're going to say new function, whatever you want to call it. Now we have a new function in our R package. And you're just going to rinse and repeat everything that we did. And there are a lot more things that you can do in package development that we didn't cover, right? So some of the things that you can do, I'm going to refer to this package development cheat sheet. You can, we did our setup, check. We wrote our code, check. Namespace was created for us automatically. That was awesome. There's a lot in the manuals, right? The documentation was created for us automatically. There's a lot more in here that you can do, right? So you can write tests, and you can write vignettes, and you can add data to your package, and you can get there today. Other questions?
I don't see from the Q&A, no chat either.
Well, I've actually, what's the protocol to wrap up, Jen?
Cool. So if you have more questions that will come up later, I think that you can find Shannon's like contact info from our mentor directory, or just add her on Twitter or something like that. But this is great. I learned a lot from this workshop, and I'm sure that everyone else in this workshop learns too. So we will post this workshop recording on the YouTube probably next week, I assume. And I think that's it for today. Thank you everyone for coming.
Well, thank you all for your awesome questions and for being here and being amazing participants and even chiming in when I didn't know the answers. So thank you. It's awesome being with you all tonight.
Thank you.